Any moron could see she had the absolute hots for him. And panting for it. Lady loved flattery.
Oh, Prime Minister, you really are the most beautiful woman in the world.
And believe you me, he knew all the right buttons to press. She was still only in opposition. Come the 79 election, it wasn't flattery she needed, but votes. And she asked Norman to push all those little seeds into her box.
God blimey. I was fed up with not having a job nor nothing under Labour.
Yeah, me too. There's no future nor nothing under Labour. Labour isn't working.
But there is a future under the Conservatives. A future of freedom and jobs for all.
Oh, hurrah! Certainly I was voting Conservative then.
Yeah, me too. 3 cheers for the Conservatives. Hip, hip, hip. Hurrah! Hip, hip, hip. Hurrah! Hip, hip, hip. Hurrah!
I actually wrote that broadcast, but
Credit went where credit was due.
Ormal was one of the first to be appointed to Margaret Thatcher's new government.
The gloves are off, and this is one battle we're going to win. There's only one language that garbage like this understands, and that's the language of bullets.
As Minister for Litter.
Gotcha!
As a Womble, I have the greatest respect for our towns and our countryside. Let's all be a Womble today and conquer this litter problem for once and for all.
As a rising star of the party, he was increasingly sought out on the major issues of the moment.
So let us send a message to General Galtieri. We shall not rest until St. George's flag flies once again over South Georgia. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure enough, the PM loved Norman's somewhat populist approach. All was forgiven, took him to her bosom. Naughty Julian. Made him her Secretary of State for Wales, and all those poor little Welsh people were simply livid. Delicious. Oh, dear. Ever since contesting North Mucky Valley in the 1950s, I'd always had a strong affection for the area. I really enjoyed my return. That it gives me very great pleasure to declare this coal mine closed. No. I speak your language. You shouldn't have gone on strike.
the thing that is hated by the Welsh. Everything, therefore, gained the undying admiration of Margaret. Everything promoted Minister of Defence Procurement.
And I can assure you, Mr. President, British landmines are the best in the world. They will, quite literally, blow your mind.
Ormal's rise seemed unstoppable, but trouble was raising its ugly head over the apparently clear blue horizon.
In politics, it never rains, but where was I? Oh, yes, the poor. It never rains on the poor. Oh, but it does. They get soaked. Who? The rich. Why? Where? When? You know, there must be a middle way. Whoops. It was a series of disasters, of course, personal, political, and of course, year of the slut affair. Everyone suddenly, boom.
Just 3 months after helping mastermind the election victory, the slut affair threatened to sink Ormal.
I am told they first met when she arrived at Norman Ormal's constituency surgery, asking for help with doing up her buttons at the back. And of course, next time they met, she asked for help with doing them up at the front.
And later that same evening, Norman appointed her his Westminster secretary. One doesn't really like to imagine what those two got up to, does one?
These are the Conservative members of that Parliament, and these are their secretaries and political researchers. But Gaynor Slut stands out, in my memory, as the only topless typist in the House of Commons at that time. Well, in retrospect, one can see that her typing wasn't of the highest standard. But Oh, of course, the other way, very important. One thought nothing of it at the time.
Of course, one doesn't touch the Sunday tabloids, unless one really has to.
Inevitably, this kind of thing drew tremendous distraction from the government's central message.
I speak as I find. There's an old Yorkshire saying, do nought if nought's what folk wish to know, but nought do nought if nought. Aye, don't get me wrong, I've the greatest respect for Ormal, but the bugger's got to go.
Family standing by him, also to certain amount of professional advice on how to conduct a damaged imitation exercise.
I apologise to the Prime Minister for any embarrassment I may have caused the government. I'm now embarking on a private, revitalising family holiday with my wife, Felicity Ormal. It is my resolute desire to do the honourable thing and lay this matter to rest. I have therefore concluded that the appropriate action to take under the circumstances is to stand by my long-suffering secretary, Miss Gaynor Slut, and take immediate steps to divorce my wife. Here is your ticket. Have a very, very nice holiday. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Really rather super.
My dear, forgive me, but our party's never been fond of the permanent partner. And then he began taking her aboard. I mean, she was hardly Lady Curzon.
Permanent partner, Miss Gaynor Slut.
Pleased to meet you.
Hello, mate. All right, not the time.
He let us all down going off with that. No, I won't say it, but that strumpet. I said at the time he should be punished. And personally, I felt like chaining him by his wrist to the wall of a dungeon. No. Whimpering sort of noises. No! While I whip him with a leather thong. And I think I spoke for the rest of the parliamentary party, too.
Poor Norman, he got a lot of grief over Gaynor. I don't know why. I mean, she was a lovely girl. But I knew my brother. I knew he'd fight back.
Oh, no, Scruffy! Not you fight back, Norman! Putting the interests of my constituency members, my party, and above all my country before my own, I have decided to make the ultimate sacrifice. At midnight tonight, I shall be returning to my wife. Thank you.
It was nothing less than a deep personal tragedy for Norman Ormal, and I always felt the very greatest sympathy. I'm so sorry, I'll have to do that again.
Let's say no more about it. I urge you, leave poor bugger alone. He deserves a decent period of hush, so let's say no more about it.
It was nothing less than a deep personal tragedy.
He's run off with his bit of skirt, not my type, but there we are, he's had his fun. He's got back to his highly strung wife. They're booked for the grace of God, so let's say no more about it. Give the lad a break.
I am sorry. It was nothing less than a deep person.
I mean, what can he be thinking of running off with that bimbo, mind you, when you see his wife? But let's say no more about it. Good legs, mind, I'll give her that.
Norman had it commissioned after he came back to me. I don't really like it, so I'm afraid I never look at it.
Yes, my wife has no appreciation of fine art, but marriage is a compromise and I tolerate her ignorance. And just look at the way the breasts seem to follow you round the room.
As the 80s went on, we were all pretty bloody pissed off and having to take it up the arse from the deserving poor. Frankly, it was high time the better off got their hand job from the Treasury. After 40 years of the so-called welfare state, we were panting for it. So, as Secretary of State for Public Funding, Norman Ormal set to work on a fair way to spread the burden of taxation more equally between the rich and the oiks. Touché. Like a bloody genius, he came up with the pool tax.
Ormal's white paper proposed shifting the entire burden of local taxation onto those households without swimming pools. The pool tax, as it became known, led to widespread rioting and civil unrest. But Ormal was unrepentant.